Hello. What can an 1873 Knights Templar book teach you about how to survive a bad boss? This is from the Knights Templar Book by Robert Macoy from 1873. Before we get started, however, just an editor's note, in our chronological journey through Robert Macoy's 1873 book, The Knights Templars, we've reached a critical tipping point. This video serves as a bridge between the end of Part 2, the disaster Battle of Hattin, and the beginning of Part 3, where the fragments of a broken kingdom had to decide whether to surrender or stand. We're also stepping outside the standard chapter markers because there are some real-life leadership lessons found in what Macoy called the liminal space between defeat and regrouping. In today's business speak, it's the space between a startup and a pivot. For Freemasons who use the progressive line for lodge officers, it's a lesson on how to maintain consistent lodge performance while helping a poor-performing Worshipful Master. Today we're looking at the era surrounding the First Crusade, about 1095, and the leadership crisis that caused and followed the Battle of Hattin in 1187. The Masonic leadership crisis, the Tyre strategy. You don't have to, but we would recommend that you look at the previous videos to get caught up on why Knights Templars went to the Holy Land and why they succeeded. We've included a brief historical setup right now just to get you caught up. So here it is. In the High Middle Ages, a deep-seated theory of Oriental pilgrimage took hold of Europe. Macoy writes that around 1064, the persecution reached a fever pitch, noting that pilgrims were exposed to every species of insult and tyranny by the Saracens. This set the stage for the First Crusade in 1095, ignited by the agonizing descriptions of Peter the Hermit, which set the heart of Europe on fire. By the end of the First Crusade in 1099, the Christians had established their headquarters in the Mosque el-Aqsa, identifying it as the site of Solomon's Temple. However, a century later, in 1187, internal bickering and weak leadership had led to the defeat of the Knights Templars and the Hospitallers at the Battle of Hattin. Following this defeat, King Guy and Grand Master Riderfort were captured. Macoy describes the king as irresolute, giving contradictory commands and leaving the forces paralyzed for want of a leader. While the central leadership crumbled, a small group of defenders of the city of Tyre, led by Conrad Montferrat, who had defended their fort by fighting back their adversaries. When the king and Grand Master, after their defeat to Saladin at Hattin and their forced oath to leave the Holy Land, they arrived at the fort at Tyre. Conrad and his men, however, refused to let the failing king inside the gates, instead chose to control their own destiny. So what's to learn from the lessons of the Knights Templars, defeat, and at the fort of Tyre? Well, here are three claims that Macoy makes. The imbecile at the top. Macoy doesn't mince words, describing the king of Jerusalem as an imbecile and irresolute, leaving the Templars paralyzed for a want of leader. The second claim is there was a forced oath dilemma. The King Guy and Grand Master were forced to swear an oath to Saladin to abandon the Holy Land. Macoy notes they eventually broke this oath to regroup, proving that a leader's prior mistakes don't have to define their next move. And third, the independent stronghold at Tyre. While the central leadership crumbled, the city of Tyre held firm. They refused the failing king and queen at their gates, choosing to manage their own defense and destiny. So what actions can you inculcate on how to work with a bad boss? Well, first, build your own Tyre. If your king or the boss is making contradictory commands, focus on your specific department. Secure your area of responsibility so tightly that it becomes an independent stronghold of results that cannot be ignored. The second is the forced oath pivot. If you've been led into a bad commitment or a failing project, take responsibility and pivot. Like the Templars, who regrouped at Acre, your duty is to the mission or the order, not a previous mistake. And finally, refuse the cynical employee path. It's easy to blame the leader and stop working. Chivalry, however, demands the body-bending toil of the siege. Do the work that makes your department look good, even if it makes your dumb boss look good, because you are building your own mastery of the order. The Tyre strategy of leading your lodge from the line or from the north. In many Masonic lodges, the progressive line can sometimes place a brother in the east who lacks the necessary vision. Just as the defenders of Tyre protected their city, you can protect your lodge's stronghold from the middle of the line or from the sideline. First, recruit for quality, not just vacancy. The kingdom fell because it was paralyzed for want of a leader. Don't treat the junior deacon chair as a participation trophy. Identify a brother with verified leadership qualities to start that journey. You are fortifying the walls years before he reaches the east. Second, weaponize your committees, the Conrad strategy. Conrad didn't wait for the king to save Tyre. He organized his own stronghold. If your master is struggling, the strength of the lodge is found in its committees. Get experienced past masters or, enthusiastic brothers to head up critical areas like meals, Masonic education, a travel committee, and maybe charity. Success then becomes independent of the master's personal limitations. And finally, build the Officer Past Master Council. Macoy emphasizes that the orders were best when their glory shone with undivided light. Ensure your master holds monthly officer meetings and explicitly invites past masters. This creates a master's council that acts as a rudder to help him stay on course. Well, thank you for watching today, and if you'd like to see more about anything Masonic or the Knights Templars, visit us at subscribe to our Macoy YouTube channel. You can also visit us at macoy.com. That's MACOY.com. Thanks for listening and thanks for viewing. Have a good day.